Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And hello to familiar faces. Welcome to those with us for the first time. As always, I am going to get us started by asking you all to have your phones handy, because what we would love to do is to find out where in the world you are joining in from. So we will ask you to scan the barcode and tell us where you're from. All right, I will give it another second for you to just scan that code. And I will look at our results. What amazing results do we have? Where do we have people from? We've got London, Canada, Dubai, hello. South Africa, beautiful.
Is it nice or nice? Ghana, Egypt, amazing.
All right, great. So, well, thank you all. For those, I'm just going to stop sharing and say hello. For those who are joining us for the first time, my name is Nadine, and I run the operations for Stories and this beautiful community. It's wonderful to see all of these countries joining us, a few new ones, Ghana, Nice this time. And it brings up our total of people coming and joining us from over 25 countries now. So that's great. The idea that we do is we make sure that every month we run these roundtables with exceptional speakers, as you've seen in the video, and we've got two amazing speakers with us today. Gallup, that needs no introduction. I think we've all used their reports in one way or another. And ABSA, who have been doing great work around the continent when it comes to employee engagement and rewards and performance. So thank you all. We make it a point every month also to make sure that the topics that we are discussing together are those that resonate with you and that are relevant for you. And so rewards and performance in a digital age, because we're all trying to keep those people motivated, has always been something that came up quite a few times. So I'm excited to get us started. And I will hand over to Lubna while I spotlight her to get us going.
All right. Hi, everyone. So for those of you who haven't seen me before, I'm Lubna. I'm the founder of Stories, and we're on a mission to redefine the story of work. And we do that through coaching. We have a network of 700 coaches. Someone once said that people work for money, but they go the extra mile for rewards. And I believe that with all my heart. I have witnessed thousands and thousands of coaching and therapy sessions in my life. And if you actually boil down these coaching and therapy sessions to the essence, all humans have two needs that drive performance. And I'm wondering if you can guess what these two needs are. If you can guess them and write them in the chat, what are the two needs that come up in all coaching sessions and all therapy sessions that drive people to perform? Who wants to take a guess? Feel free to come on screen if you want to come on screen. Safety, trust, thank you. Anyone else? Community, growth. Beautiful, diverse views. Anyone else? Growth, okay. Getting close, not quite there, but close. Who else wants to take a guess? Development. All right. Purpose. I love that. Purpose is beautiful. What I stand for in my life. Purpose, to be heard. Anna got the first one right, to be heard. All right. Well, there's one more. So the first one is to be heard, and the second one is to be seen. That's it. All right, Sharon. Thank you. So in coaching and in therapy, what we do is we peel the layers of the onion to understand the core. And the core is people want to be seen and heard. And I think when you hear people and see them, that's when you can drive them to perform. Or at least that's my theory. Who knows? There are lots of theories out there in the world. So today we're here to discuss rewards and performance, and we have two amazing speakers with us. The first speaker is Anna. Anna is joining us from London, from Gallup, who needs no introduction as an entrepreneur. We have a lot of pitch decks, and in every pitch deck, I make sure to quote a statistic from Gallup. So Gallup is an entity that needs no introduction, specialized in trusted research and intelligence about organizations. Anna has 25 years of experience helping organizations build thriving and high-performance workplaces. We also have Barbara joining us from ABSA. ABSA is one of the top banks in the world, and she's joining us from a country that we haven't had before, from Ghana. And I'm very, very pleased to have Barbara with us and to welcome somebody from Ghana. We are one of my biggest pride points is that we have a global community and we have speakers from all over the world show up every month. Barbara is very passionate about creating workplaces of growth mindsets, and she's very passionate about mentoring youth and helping businesses build sustainable growth. So welcome to Anna and to Barbara, and I'm gonna ask Nadine to spotlight you so we could start our discussion. Today we're gonna have a very brief discussion of about 15-20 minutes, and then we're gonna open up the floor to all of you here. So again, this is not a webinar, this is a community. So I would like to ask everybody to prep a question for Barbara and Anna and to come on screen and share your questions. And if you don't have a question, that's okay. You can come, you're all HR leaders in this space, so come and share a story of when, you know, a certain rewards program worked or did not work for you, just so we can all learn from each other. So welcome, Barbara and Anna. I'm very pleased to have you. And I'm gonna start with our panel questions, if that's okay. So as the leader in HR, you've encountered, I'm gonna start with another one. Big picture, how do you see the role of rewards and performance evolve as we look to the future, especially in light of changes in demographics? We see Gen Z value something that's very different from, you know, the boomers. So what do you see? If you had a magic wand and can forecast the future, what do you see? And maybe we'll start with Anna, if that's okay, by alphabetical order, and then we'll come to Barbara and we'll rotate that way for all questions.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity, and Barbara, it's a pleasure to connect and to learn from you, and indeed from the whole audience. I guess the biggest thing, I mean, gosh, so much change, right, in the last few years. I hate to mention the P word, but, you know, kind of we do tend to think about things pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? But I think there is just massive amount of change. One of the big things that kind of is a little startling to put into context, by next year, by 2025, a quarter of the working population will be Gen Z. And when you think about what that means, it means that they have had very materially different experiences than previous generations. When we think about the evolution of the workplaces in terms of what they want and what they need to really to unlock their best performance, there are some fairly fundamental changes that our workplaces we're going to have to support. Here's perhaps a talking point to get us going. In our experience and from what we hear through our studies, Gen Z or Gen Z have zero tolerance for poor managers, for poor management. They simply won't stick around, as my generation perhaps did, and hope that it gets better. We don't give you the benefit of the doubt in the same way that I might have done. And so there is a very real need for organizations to be training managers who are ready to manage that workforce force of the future. So some fundamental changes, and I guess one of the, maybe to put this out there again, to sort of light a fire under the conversation, the question that I would ask organizations as we think about how expectations and what we're doing to meet those expectations are changing, how confident are we that the managers that we've got in place today are equipped to be able to support Gen Z expectations?
I love that. And I totally relate and understand that Gen Z are very, very different, very purpose-driven. They value work-life balance. They value very different things. So yeah, thank you for that. And Barbara, if we had a magic wand and could forecast the future, what would you see?
Thank you so much for having me. I bring you audience warm greetings from Ghana. Very excited to be here. And nice to meet you also, Anna, connect with you and as we learn together. I think you've highlighted a very fundamental change that we're going to see. When I look into the magic wand, what I see is the continuous involvement of the workplace. And for sure, rewards and recognition is going to play a very fundamental role in the near future. Why? Because we're going to be having a very fine blend of loyal, quite experienced baby boomers who will be transitioning into retirement. And then you're going to have the fast-paced millennials, and then you have the Gen Zs, who are attention seekers and very demanding. Just like Anna said, how are we going to be managing all these diverse, well-educated, and also aging population? What I see is a huge shift where organizations will be forced to now look at approaching the various specific needs of all these diverse demographics that we'll be having. The approach of a wholesale all one-size-fits-all approach would be changing if it hasn't already started. Research is showing that it's already started in the European markets, definitely going to be moving into Africa. But how prepared are we for these specific needs whilst we're used to the one-size-fits-all? What I say is that I see a new approach where we'll have to kind of transition from the one-size-fits-all to a more persona-like vanilla approach to what we give our employees, the diverse nature that we see. And the question I would throw to the audience as we have the discussion is that as we introduce technology, we move into the digital age, how are we going to manage these digital habits that comes with the colleague engagement work front? And therefore, how are we going to find a blend to ensure that colleagues don't wear out, they don't burn out, as we are always switched on all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And I love that you bring in the digital element, because that brings me to my next question. Last month, we had speakers from IBM and Mercer and SAP, for those of you who attended with us. And we were focused on this topic, on AI and data and analytics, and how that changes the game for HR leaders and for the workplace. So in your experience, how do you see emerging technologies such as AI and automation make an impact on rewards and performance? Do you see that that's gonna improve things or not so much? Perhaps I'll start with Anna also.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's early days, isn't it? We're all kind of trying to figure out the role of AI in terms of how it reshapes skilling, performance, etc. I think that the fundamental thing is that what we spend our time and energy on matters. And as we think about how we position AI as a tool, it's very much around how it supports individuals, making their tasks simpler and more efficient. So as a complement to how we function as human beings, and and really do our best work. One of the things that we have the opportunity at Gallup to do is speak to a global network of CHRO leaders, and the kind of global opinion is that there is a big education opportunity, if you like, around how we can use AI. And I think naturally there's a lot of fear around it as well, right? So when we think about, people have this worry that they're going to have their work replaced by technology. In fact, what we see in terms of some statistics, and you'll forgive me, but that's kind of Gallup's sweet spot, 4 in 10 of us say that we use it for routine tasks currently, and 3 in 10 of us say we use it to learn new things. So there's capacity for more, and as we educate and learn more about it. Interestingly as well, when we ask people about how they feel AI could help them to do their work, 3 in 10 workers today believe that AI could be used to improve how they get their work done. Not surprisingly, it's more comfortable for younger generations. So Barbara, to your point, younger millennials and Gen Z are much more open to it currently. So there's a big education opportunity there, I think.
Beautiful. So Barbara, beyond a big education opportunity, what would you say?
So again, I would want to pick some insight from Gartner. So in 2023, they did a research of over 360 CEOs, top HR leaders. The results shows that the focus of or what the trends are going to be is AI is going to be leading in terms of driving performance in the workplace. Also top of mind for CEOs is the talent shortage. And talent shortage because of the skills required to do the work. Again, HR leaders say that about 83% of HR leaders are saying that finding the right skills to do the job to drive the performance we want to see is a huge challenge that they face. So this tells us that the need to upskill and reskill is real. I must say, in my organization, we've started a journey, especially when we transitioned from being Barclays to ABSA, what we are now. We took advantage of what the future holds in terms of technology and the application of AI. We began a journey to actually do a skills gap analysis, identify digital natives and nomads. It's been quite a journey, knowing that we have a blend of workforce demographics that we need to attend to. This has led us to identify what we call our now skills. They are top technology AI courses that we want everybody to have. In addition to that, we've understood that for us to grow as a business, digital is here to say, how do we partner with fintechs and all, if we don't know what digital is all about? So the need to upskill is real. The need to ensure that the aging population who are not so enthused about technologies brought along the journey. This has been a very intense approach. And for the past 4 years, I must say we're getting to the level where I wouldn't say we've closed the gap, but at least you can see how the impact of technology is driving our performance. Everybody understands it now, and therefore all hands on deck. Nobody is afraid to say this is going to take my job away, but rather it's going to enhance how I perform on the job to contribute to the organization. So yes, upscaling is key to the success as we want to perform and grow our businesses. Yeah, thank you.
I love that. And I think it's wonderful that you've gone on that journey that must have come with a lot of challenges. So if we can shift perhaps to discussing challenges that come with the future that we've just discussed, because we want to be real in this community, and HR leaders have challenges as they transition from where we're at today to where we want to be. What would you say are the top challenges in aligning rewards and performance to organizational goals? Anna. Gosh, or what do you see when you speak to CHROs? What are you seeing?
That's such a huge question. I think just wanted to pick up on one piece that Barbara said there as well. I think it's so important that you're investing so much time in kind of the preparation of people to make this transition, because again, from our data, one of the things that we find is that very few people actually feel prepared to really make that transition comfortably. So when we speak to all ages, less than 1 in 5 of us feel very prepared to use AI today. And even when you look at specifically Gen Z, who have this more kind of position to, only 20% of Gen Z say that they feel very prepared to use AI today. So there is clearly some, preparation that we need to do that. Interestingly, and I think this comes back to kind of one of Gallup's fundamental findings, is the population, and maybe this is one of those kind of chat moments, so get people's thoughts on it. But one of the things that I'm really curious is when you think about all of the kind of stakeholders in any kind of change process, specifically when we think about AI, who do you think feels the least prepared in organizations? Maybe people can pop their thoughts in the chat, but I'm curious to see if we're kind of on the same page with the workplaces. Okay, boomers, yeah, interesting. Let's see if we get any other thoughts.
Millennials, okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give a little clue here. It's a population that Gallup talks endlessly about. It's managers. Managers feel the least prepared to really kind of think about AI and how they use it in their role. So again, going back to some of the pieces that Gallup talks a lot about, if as a manager I don't feel prepared, how I then help my team to feel prepared to take on changes, different ways of working, behaving, etc., it's going to be challenging. So managers in particular need to be really part of that transition process, I think.
Okay, thank you. And Barbara.
Yeah, again, to add to Anna, I think some of the challenges that we would face are resistant from the various demographics because of the approach of that one size fits all. And therefore, the pace with which each demographic moves is different, and we need to recognize that. What I'll recommend is us looking into the future where we kind of listen more as business leaders. And there are several touch points of us listening. One of it is the annual colleague experience surveys that we run in many organizations, and Gallup does very well with that. You have rich data of what colleagues are saying to their employers on a daily basis, several listening touch points where you can pick up what you can do to ensure that all these colleagues come along the journey, irrespective of their demographics, whether they are millennials, they are Gen Zs, or they are the aging population that we are also concerned about that we don't leave behind. So listening to specifically what they are telling you would help motivate them to move the dial, and paying attention to that and designing, whether it's development, training, to upskill, to bring them to that level, provide the necessary support to ensure that all these challenges that we foresee of just having a one size fits all is done away with, because colleagues feel they are heard, they feel that what they are asking for, the support they need has been provided, and they will be willing to give off their best. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And perhaps we can just give 3 key tips to each HR leader with us in the room today as we wrap up this small Q&A segment and then transition. So Anna, if you had 3 key tips to each HR leader based on all of the time that you've spent with CHROs, what would that be?
Gosh, only 3. Let me start with the first one. Perhaps no surprises, I'm going to talk about the manager. I think the first tip would be examine how you currently are identifying managers. We're talking about kind of responsibilities and, you know, recognition, reward, and so on. I think when we think about the role of manager, it's the most critical role that we have in our organisations. As probably many people know, Gallup talks about at least 70% of the variance in terms of how people engage and perform in the workplace being explained by the local manager. So examining how you currently appoint managers, it is a responsibility versus a reward for time served. And still in a lot of organizations that we work with, there is less of a focus on people having the talent and desire to manage versus it being used as a kind of a recognition and reward system, and then training them appropriately. As we know, you know, there's a lot going in the workplace. You know, managers, Barbara, you mentioned about burnout. You know, 32% of managers tell us that they regularly are struggling with burnout themselves. So to your earlier point again, Barbara, listening to your managers as well, super critical. I think then the second point, that was a very long first point, but forgive me. The second point or tip that I would perhaps offer is forensically measure your employee experience. So again, it links very nicely, Barbara, with your point about listening. You know, it's not just engagement, it's that whole journey. So really thinking about how carefully we bring people into the organization, that we're onboarding them as carefully as we were at the beginning to go and find that hard-won talent that you mentioned, Barbara, and making sure that their journey into the organization is really well supported and managed, aligned with you know, all the work, the great work that we do around engagement, and then driving accountability. If we're not really understanding what people need to thrive in the workplace, we can't hope to possibly unlock their best performance. So I think that would be point 2. And then point 3 is really study your very best. We spend a lot of time in organizations where we see terrific range in performance. So you can have comfortably or uncomfortably coexisting world-class performance and evidence of managers who are all over, you know, meeting the needs of their teams very consistently, coexisting with managers who are really struggling to do that, even at the kind of formal touch points. And so really understanding what is it that differentiates the behaviors of your very best, and then codify and scale that across the organization, so we reduce that sort of that distribution curve. The shorter version of that might be, it's kind of lean for people, right? So we want our people to have more like the very best experience than anything else.
I love that. Words of wisdom. Thank you. Barbara.
Yeah, so I would say we need to dial up the colleague development aspect of performance management. So normally the focus would be on meeting the targets, forgetting that we need to support colleagues to develop, upskill, to be able to meet these targets that we set for them. So what I'll say is, as HR leaders, let's invest in the development and training of our colleagues. That will be the first point I'll make. Secondly, is to ensure that we drive effective communication. And by this, what I mean is having honest conversations on a regular basis. Don't wait till the end of year before we have conversations. We should have regular conversations and take feedback, and also ensure that we make colleagues feel heard, meaning that what they tell us, we take actions on and we deliver. And we come back to show them that you said this, we've done this. This is our expectation of you as well as you drive your EVP. And finally, we need to cultivate a culture of support, okay, where there's collaboration, mutual respect, and trust is emphasized, so that the issue of silo mentality of working can be done away with. And this will help fuel performance within the organization. I cannot leave without highlighting the need for us to take time to rest and encourage colleagues to take time to rest, because in this digital era, if you're not careful, you burn out. And if you burn out, what is the long-term effect on the performance of the organization? We want sustainability. And therefore, let's encourage colleagues to take time off so that we don't burn out. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Again, words of wisdom. And I love, you know, if you hear your employees it's so important. So many organizations do employee surveys and they don't do anything with the employee surveys, and they don't hear their employees. So I love what you said, and I love the point about rest also. So thank you for that. All right, so we have tons of other questions that we have prepared, but I would love to, I see there are 2 in the chat. So I would love to perhaps make sure that everybody in the audience has a chance to ask you questions and vice versa, so we can have a dialogue together. So I would like to invite Nadine perhaps to mention a few announcements about our next event, and then we could see everybody in gallery view and have a dialogue together. All right, thank you both, and we'll come back to you with more questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Barbara, for that amazing insights. What I'm going to do is maybe just start off by announcing our next roundtable. As I mentioned, we have monthly roundtables. The next one is going to be Great Places, creating a great place to work. And we're going to have representatives from Great Place to Work. So it's going to be very interesting. You can feel free to scan the code to register. And then that way we will love to see you all with us next month. Another exciting announcement that I have is our incredible conference that is coming up in on October 8th to the 10th under the theme of Grow. It's going to be our first 3-day virtual conference, and we're going to have some amazing speakers, celebrities lined up, and starting off with Dr. Gabor Mate, who will be inaugurating the event. So I would love to invite you all to join our community so that you can stay updated. One of the things that we're doing differently as well with this event is that we are opening it up to entrepreneurs, CEOs, employees, all your leaders, your teams, because we're going to have several different tracks that will help each one of us grow in one way or another. And what I would really love to do is ask you to take off your phones again and scan the code here, scan the barcode here, so that you can vote on the different tracks that we have and the topics, because what's very important for us is to be able to allow you to also invite your team members and your colleagues and really gain the most out of this experience. So I'll just leave this out here for a few seconds so that you can get a chance to scan. And then I'm going to ask Mariam to join us and we can start our Q&A and community part of this panel discussion.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to our amazing speakers. It was incredible listening to your insights. We really want to get a sense of the community that we have going here. So I'd love to ask you all to maybe turn your cameras on, show us your lovely faces, share some stories with us or questions. I know we have some questions in the comments, but if you'd like to come on screen and maybe introduce yourself and ask them, maybe you could raise your hand and I could moderate. That would be great. Anybody?
All right,
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is also, I will be spotlighting Anna and Barbara in case there are questions directed to them. And
okay, we have a question. So maybe we'll go through these before we go through the questions in the actual comments. Okay, go ahead. Ali, I think, has their hand raised.
Ali, you're muted.
Yeah, go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question, tell us the story.
There we go. Hi, I'm the incoming Chief People Officer of an insurance broking firm that's global, so I don't yet know in detail what they look like and their various levels of readiness are, so I'm embarking on a journey. I'm interested to know those that have put in place an analysis of digital readiness in their organization. How have they gone about doing it, and was it successful? Would you do it differently the next time? Because I suspect that's one of the things I'm going to have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. who's answering the question? Anna, Barbara, go ahead.
Okay, so can I be heard, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. go ahead,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So as I mentioned earlier, it's been a journey, a 4-year journey we've been on. We're still ongoing. The first point is about trying to do a skills gap analysis on what skills are missing from the population that you have. This gives you insight as to how to approach this. The next stage would be to identify what are mandatory courses or programs that every employee must jump on board on, and what are the specifics for leadership mid-level and the entry level. As you break these down, and then because it's an investment, you cannot do all at once. So the gradual process of allowing colleagues to go at their own pace with the mandatory courses. What we've done in our organization is to create the excitement of a bigger learner campaign, where you've identified where the courses are, everybody has to do it. You make a more competitive, functional competition, organization-wide competition, and recognizing these bigger learners on a monthly basis. This has helped us to drive attention to that, and colleagues willingly go on there to do it. As in the past, where you would have to force them, now they willingly do because they understand the impact of these interventions. Once we've done that, we've moved to the next level, and this is in year 3, where we look at senior leadership gap analysis, specifically on areas that will drive performance in the digital era. And we've signed them on to courses that involve project management. So you don't just do the course, you actually implement in the workplace as you go through the program, so that at the end of the day, you have tangible projects you can speak to as to the transformation you've seen as a result of applying these learnings. I think the next phase will be, which we're still on, is to move this to the lower tier as we go along. And with the results we're seeing from the application of the senior leadership going through these programs, is giving us enough comfort to replicate them as we move down the chain. I hope this helps in your drive to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Have you found it easy to find the right training content, and have you mostly opted for online content, or have you had a hybrid approach with live training as well?
Okay, so it hasn't been easy, but fortunately we've got the opportunity of partnering institutions that are driving AI technology in the universities. So we've partnered with universities. We've also signed on to Udemy, where we've created a digital learning path. So for the natives, and then for those who've already adopted, there's a different learning path. So you move along. It hasn't been easy, but once we signed on to the right partner in terms of the institution, it has made it easier for our leadership to do that project-based training of design thinking and application. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Ali. We also have a question from Prince. You can unmute yourself, come on screen.
Hi, thank you very much. Good day to all of you colleagues, and I hope you can hear me. So I'm a human resource partner, business partner, and I lead the charge on culture and values as well. And sorry, I'm in transit, so maybe my voice may not be too clear. But based on the 3 key points, the advices that were given by our panelists, I just want to find out, they mentioned things around colleague experience survey and listening and all that. Looking at how dynamic our business environment is now, and how people are also very dynamic, changing according to the times, how often do you think that organizations should be running some of these surveys? Because I know in some places they do 24 months, some places they do a year. What is the advice on that, on that listening in the organization? How often should that be happening? Thank you.
Anna, Barbara.
I'm very happy to share a response there if that's helpful. That feels like it might be a kind of Gallup-y type question.
Yeah,
Prince,
you're right.
thanks so much for your question. So, you know, I'm going to give a slightly caveated answer here. I think as often as it feels helpful and critically as you can act on the data. So one of the things that we find is that, and this is probably not new news to anybody on the call today, but when you ask a survey question, you raise an expectation that something's going to be done about it. So there's probably a kind of a pithier response that I could give, which is, if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question or run a survey.
Okay.
So the first thing I would say is, make sure that any questions that you're asking, you are prepared to act on, because that will be the expectation. And the second, perhaps even more important piece is, how are you driving accountability for then those actions to actually stick? And again, you know, going back to all of the research that Gallup has done on this, we know that it's critical that it's at the grassroots level. So it's through your managers that change really happens and sticks. So I think I'm coming full back, you know, kind of on one of my earlier points. How are you equipping managers to have really effective conversations that actually create that behavioral change that translates into performance improvement? So it's a kind of a long answer, but somewhat caveated based on your ability to kind of support actions and drive accountability thereafter. Barbara, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so maybe let me add, and hello to you, Prince. That's my colleague from ABSA Ghana. Good to see you. And I know where Prince is coming from. I think it is around the conversation of survey fatigue, if you're to run this often. But the fundamental point which Anna, you raised is the fact that if you're not able to implement any meaningful change within 3 to 6 months, what is the use of coming back 2 months down the line with another survey? So the essence of ensuring that whatever you said you do, you've worked on, is why we give it time to be able to run the survey annually. In some organizations, what they'll do is a pulse survey in between the annual survey, just to ensure that how things are tracking. You could get a sense of improvement from the results you saw at the end of the year. So it's not fair for me to say once or twice, but as Anna said, how are you able to demonstrate a shift in what colleagues are telling you? And therefore you need to give it time. And that should be your guide in terms of the number of times you want to run the survey. Thanks.
Thank you, Prince. I think we have a question from Lizanne. I'm going to ask to unmute, but if we can keep our questions and answers just a little concise, just to be mindful of everyone's time. We're getting lots of questions coming in. Lizanne, over to you.
Oh, thank you. I think this question is more for Anna maybe, but interesting to hear Barbara's view as well. So, I mean, with a quarter of the population in 2025, or the workforce will be Generation Z. Can you guys all hear me? Because my internet's not the best. Let me just check. You can hear me? Okay, cool. I think it's going to result in like a big shift in mindset and culture for a lot of organizations, especially if you adapted certain reward and recognition practices over the past, and you know it's been working for the type of workforce that you currently have. So my question is more, if we think about, you know, that statistic about a quarter of the workforce being a Gen Z, what do you think are the key reward and recognition practices that organizations are going to have to change, and quite quickly, if they would want to retain and engage Gen Z talent?
Oh gosh, I'm really mindful, Mariam. You just said a short answers, and I'm just really trying to think about all the things that I want to say and how I can say that concisely. Lizanne, it's such a great question. I'm going to say a couple of things here that might be pretty controversial. So one of them is, we know that Gen Zs are a little different in the sense of their expectations of the workplace, but I'm also going to say that they are quite similar in other ways to all of us as human beings and kind of the needs that we must have met in order to do our best work. And I think, Lubna, you mentioned at the beginning, you know, we talked about people needing to be seen and heard. And I would add to that, developed continuously. And so that see me, hear me, develop me is kind of the condition that we all perform best under. So if I think about the biggest transition that we're going to need to make to really unlock the best performance of Gen Z, it's around understanding that there is an individualized conversation that needs to happen around what does the best recognition look like. In fact, that's such a great coaching conversation and manager kind of conversation to have, and to ask people, what's the best recognition you've ever received? Because everything can kind of orient from that. In terms of how we then manage development and performance, we can plan for, hey, when things go well, here's how we're going to work that. When things don't go so well, here's how we're going to work that. But it starts from a fundamental conversation. And again, looping back around to, this is a really long answer, I'm very sorry, but looping back around to the starting point, how are we equipping managers to have quality conversations that fundamentally allow us to unlock all the brilliance of these team members that we have? I think never assume that people want to be recognized in the same way that you do, because it's highly unlikely. Sorry.
So what we're hearing is kind of personalizing the rewards and recognition. Just linking, because we were talking about Gen Z here, just linking back to a comment we had from Dr. Ziad. So if you want to share your insights, I'll read it out to you both. The discussion surrounding Generation Z and Generation Y stems from regional viewpoint. How can we identify these generations and how their differences can impact our decision making as business leaders? So especially when operating across borders, I think that's a good point in terms of looking at things from a regional perspective and maybe cultural. If you want to share maybe your thoughts on that or insights, or anybody.
Okay, so let go ahead, please. Let's
No,
give
go ahead,
opportunity
Barbara.
to others. So please go ahead.
Go ahead, Barbara.
So-
Go ahead.
So I was going to say that, I mean, in the workplace, regional cross borders, cultural differences, in certain regions where you need to respect your elder. So anybody older than you need to respect them. That transitions to the workplace. And that will be different from an environment where everybody is seen as equal. And therefore, irrespective of your age, gender, we're all treated the same. And in some cases, a millennial might be a manager for an aging baby boomer, for instance. So these demographics, these nuances in the workplace stems back to Anna's question around the role of the line manager. I think investing in bringing the line manager along to appreciate the different dynamics within the workspace and respecting each other gives you the room to have those honest conversations. And I wanted to add that in that regard, what you do is you co-create solutions for these Gen Zs and millennials, rather than sitting back and analyzing the data and say, this is what they need. You need to engage with them, have the honest conversation, and co-create the solutions with them. They would tell you, they would identify with you what they want to see change. And if you listen and apply, most of the time, it tends to be out that you get the right results that you need. So yes, cultural nuances will come in, but if you get that fix of the line leader coming on board and appreciating the different demographics, I think that will go a long way to help manage all the cultural nuances or the diversity in the work environment across regions as well. Thank you.
Right, and I'm sure I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of this in Gallup's upcoming report. Anna, if you can tell us a bit more about that, when is it coming out? We'd love to share it with our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Gallup Global State of the Workplace report is an annual report where Gallup, through the World Poll activity that we do, is able to essentially survey the world on how we feel, not just about work, but other aspects of kind of our lives overall. And it's a study, literally 140 countries, really fascinating insight into how we feel about work and life. So it comes out next month, and we'll be doing lots of activities around that, so webinars and briefings and so on, and you'll be able to download the report from gallup.com in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, really exciting to see what the overall results look like. One of the things that we look in there at is how people feel, particularly about work in the context of engagement. So we look at engaged, not engaged, and actively disengaged kind of ratios. And really interestingly, the biggest majority of people are what we would call not engaged. So those are those people that are kind of more rationally typically satisfied with their work, rather than that emotional connection, which is a little bit what we've been talking about today, how you really untap that great potential.
That's great. We're all looking forward to downloading it, reading it. We'll be sharing it with our community for sure. Thank you everyone for your questions and your comments. Lubna, over to you.
All right. Well, a huge thank you to our amazing two speakers today, and to all of you who came on camera and who wrote in the chat and engaged with us today. I want to make sure that we respect your time and we stick to the 1 hour timeline. I hope to see you again next month. We have an amazing session again planned for next month, and we're working really hard on planning the conference for October. I would love to speak to as many of you as possible so that we can put together an amazing conference that is very tailor-made to all of you. So if any of you have 5 to 10 minutes just to speak with me, please reach out. You have my barcode which has my contacts, or feel free to connect on LinkedIn. We want to make sure that we give you topics that are relevant for you. So thank you so much for joining us and for asking amazing questions. Thank you to the amazing speakers. And I wish you a beautiful afternoon, evening, or day, wherever you're joining in from. And thank you, and see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Right.